Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. My voice is hoarse, Tony. I am so sorry.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Don't apologize. Just say, who wants the sex mutombo?
Who wants to sex mutombo?
That's just the greatest line of all time.
It is. It is. And, you know, Dikembe says he never said it.
Who cares?
Well, you know, last week I saw him and I said, Dikembe, just say it for me one time. Come on, just say it.
He said it. He's got a whole album saying it. It's an extended play. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. Today's episode, the Pacers stay alive, Warriors players back their coach, and an completely hoses Yasiel Puig. But we begin today with Kevin Durant, old Mr. Unreliable. Durant got 12 points in the first quarter last night and 36 in the game, plus 10 rebounds and 14 of 15 from the line as Oklahoma City waltzed past Memphis by 20 points. Wilbon, was this simply about Durant being more assertive?
Simply about Durant? No. There were changes to the lineup. Caron Butler got more playing time, was in the starting lineup. Young Steven Adams was on the floor more. Russell Westbrook was a great player, not a ball hog. And maybe at the top of the list, Kevin Durant was more assertive. But it wasn't the only reason they won, Tone. They played like a team last night, and when the Oklahoma City Thunder play that way, they can beat anybody. They can win a championship.
Let me tell you something. If I was still a columnist, I would have written that it was 100% about Kevin Durant. And I'm going to go back to something you said the other day, that Kevin Durant is nice, maybe too nice sometimes. Too nice when he defers to Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
Too nice when he defers to coaches. He came out there last night. We're going to the glasses early, okay? Because he had 8 shots in the first 9 minutes, which he doesn't do. He got to the line 15 times. The last 2 games, he had only gotten to the line 12 times. I think he came out there last night and he said, you're going to criticize me? You think this is me? I'm going to show you what I've got. And I'm not saying that the things you said aren't right. I'm saying it was on. Durant said, I'll show you what I've got.
Oh, Tony, I agree with that. We don't disagree here. And Kevin needs to do that more often. And people say, why doesn't he? Tony, you hit upon something. Kevin Durant's the nicest guy in the world. He's the nicest guy you're going to meet. And sometimes, as we know in sports,
too nice.
People have had, Dirk Nowitzki had that same personality largely until 2007. And he had that humiliating loss. I'm not saying Dirk turned into a meanie, but he understood when he had to be more assertive. But still, Tony, even if Durant plays that way, he's going to need help from his mates. They're going to have to exercise good judgment, and they did last night.
All of that is true, but I think that Durant was stung by that headline.
I agree.
They called him Mr. Unreliable. I think he was stung by the fact that his mother had to weigh in on Twitter, and I think he said, is this what you think of me? Because I'll show you the best of me tonight. I mean, I think he took that upon himself.
Agreed, Tom. We agree on that. Another team that responded under big pressure was, and this is something of a surprise, your Indiana Pacers, who outscored Atlanta by 10 in the fourth quarter to force a Game 7 back in Indy tomorrow. However, with the Pacers, there's always a but. Paul George took a couple of steps onto the floor during that second quarter skirmish and could have been suspended for a game, but just an hour ago, the NBA ruled there would be no suspension. Tony, the NBA has shown zero tolerance before, so is this the right call now?
The NBA before was in the hands of the Angel of Stern, who was not a players' commissioner. It was an owner's commissioner. Adam Silver is trying very hard to be a players' commissioner. Adam Silver has done the right thing because he's maintained the integrity of a Game 7. I mean, the infraction is very, very minor. On the letter of the law, he could have done it. I think he's doing the wise thing by not suspending George. Look, they may not win with George. They got no shot without George, right?
No,
they got no shot.
That's right. No shot, even at home. Tony, let me say this. Let me give credit to our dear friend J.A. Adonde. I'm watching the game last night with Jay. We're in Oakland for the Warriors. And Jay said, here's why he shouldn't be suspended. Because the fact that he stopped himself abruptly and retreated, it means the rule is doing its job. And Jay is right about that. The rule does its job. Now, if you're Patrick Ewing, and the people left over from that Knicks team that got suspended.
Different era.
You are the Phoenix Suns in 2007, not a different era. Only because it's David Stern, and you were Amari Stoudemire and Boris Diaw, and you got hosed, and it cost you a championship in 2007. You're not happy to see this departure, but it is a smart ruling, Tony. It's the
I'm
way to
glad
go.
you watched the game. I watched that entire game. Both teams stink, all right? Other than Jeff T, you keep everybody on Atlanta. All they want to do is shoot threes. They shot 35 threes last night. And last night, Indiana is in yellow uniforms. Atlanta is in white. When Indiana went up for a shot, 5 white jerseys around a basket. Noted from Indiana don't have a guard, Mike. They don't have a guard. They don't have anybody who starts the offense. So if anybody thinks it's a big advantage for them to go home to play, that's insane. Both teams are 1-2 at home. You made me watch that whole game. Stop it.
Really? I made you? Because I didn't watch the whole game. But it's interesting you just now noticed that Atlanta sub-500 stinks. Thanks for playing the game, Sparky.
For months now, it's been rumored that Mark Jackson's future employment with the Golden State Warriors depended on that team advancing deep in the playoffs. Now we have one of the Warriors, Jermaine O'Neal, saying, quote, "You get the feeling that no matter what happens, our coach won't be our coach next year," unquote. Wilbon, do you agree with Jermaine O'Neal that getting rid of Mark Jackson is somehow a foregone conclusion?
Tony, it feels like that. And look, let me confess some things, okay? My first job doing basketball for this network, Mark Jackson held my hand through it, okay? Mark Jackson's my friend at this point of our lives. And when I stopped by his office last night, it felt like I was offering my condolences on some level. Even though they, meaning the Warriors players, they love playing for Mark Jackson. They won 51 games after 40-some last year, after like 23 the year before. Mark Jackson has gotten him so much better. They play defense. The building is loud. This is not a basketball reason if he's not in that office next year. It has nothing to do with basketball because those players love him. They love playing for him, and they produce. This is insane to me, Tony. Insane to me.
Okay, well, okay. If you don't get along with the owner, that's a different deal.
But we get along.
What does that mean?
You
want to keep your job, win the series. This is a good series against a good team. Win the series. Randy Whitman at Washington needed to do something this year to keep his job. Still up in the air, but at least he's won a first round in the playoffs. Frank Vogel, he's coaching for his job. There's no doubt about that. Mark Jackson said, this is a direct quote, "We're going to Game 7 with all the sideline music." You think you got sideline music? The other sideline, they're getting rid of an owner. I mean, Mark Jackson, just if you have, as long as you're the coach, Mike, go out and win. Because your resume's good. You're going to get a job.
Tony, he's going to get a job.
That's right.
They're playing without Andrew Bogut in a series where the other team has bigs.
That's right.
Okay, huge guys. All right, so nobody picked the Warriors to win this series. And by the way, really? You want to fire every coach who didn't win a first-round series? Really? What about the coaches who didn't make the playoffs?
I don't think that people deserve to get fired. But when it comes down to, if somebody basically says you have to win X amount to keep your job.
That's not what they said. It's not about that.
Go out and keep winning and keep coaching.
That's not about that. That's not what was said. So you're not describing the situation accurately. This is apparently about the owner, who I know socially, Joe Lacob, saying, he hasn't said it out loud, but all around the team, the owner doesn't like the coach. Doesn't like? Are we down to that now? Really? That's a pathetic reason, if it's true, to fire Mark Jackson.
When owners pay the salary, for whatever reason, if they want to make a change, they can.
That's true.
This guy's resume is gold, basically. He's going to get a job.
We will get a job instantly, Tony. You would think. Sad has come to that, in my opinion. Race was injected again into sports last night. A fabulous double overtime playoff game between the Bruins and Canadiens was tainted afterward when social media bigots ripped into Montreal's PK Subban for scoring the game winner. Why? Because Subban's black. Fortunately, Bruins president Cam Neely issued a statement saying, quote, "The racist, classless views expressed by an ignorant group of individuals are in no way a reflection of anyone associated with the Bruins," close quote. Tony, did the Bruins need to make that statement?
You know, normally I would very quickly say they didn't need to, and my inclination is they didn't need to. But in the current atmosphere, you know, with Donald Sterling out there, maybe they did need to. It certainly was good that they did. There's no ambiguity here. There's nobody can say, oh, Boston has had a history of racial disharmony before, and the fact that the Bruins didn't say anything means that they're condoning it. No, they're not condoning it. The people that need to apologize are the people who did those tweets.
Yeah.
But I think in this particular case, it behooved Boston management to do it. They probably did the right thing. The mayor did it as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it behooved them or not, Tony, but I want to applaud Cam Neely for having the stones to stand up in the face of people who see themselves, I guess, as fans of that organization, saying we disassociate ourselves with you. Good for the mayor.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be Boston strong on some things, then you can be it on other things. And I don't know if it's Boston, but it's Bruins strong. So a standing ovation to Cam Neely, okay? Because, this could have been difficult. He could have said, you know what, I don't want to step into this. And I imagine there must have been not only a measured response, but some anger. And, yes, you can't ignore the climate that you're in on a particular day or week when sort of news drives the conversation. So good for Cam Neely.
But, I mean, this is not isolated to Boston. There's every city in the country and every city in the world. We see this with European soccer all the time.
Yeah.
This happens. Now, what you have to hope for is something like the Donald Sterling incident, which was met with universal condemnation, means that we're moving away from that and into something better.
You know what moves us away from it? What moves us away is when strong people stand up and say, we're not having this garbage.
That's right.
Again, I'd like to hug Cam Neely if he wouldn't punch me.
That'll hurt you with the Blackhawks.
That's right.
Yesterday, after beating out an infield single against the Twins, Yasiel Puig was called out for supposedly making a move towards second base as he contemplated the wild throw at first. Wilbon, should Puig have been called out?
Tony, I don't think so. I always thought in the baseball rule book, first of all, umpires don't even pay attention to the baseball rule book half the time. They call what they want to call. I was always taught that making a move, rounding, being on the left side of the foul line, all of those things allowed you to be in play, to be tagged out, because you were then leading the defense to think you were making a turn towards second base. He didn't do any of those things. He looked at second. I don't think anywhere in the rule book it says you can't look to second base. He looked, he checked, it wasn't going to happen. He didn't make a turn. No, he shouldn't have been called out.
This is an awful, awful call. This is a garbage call. Yeah. He didn't even cross the line to go to second base. This is like an umpire saying, I've read about Yasiel Puig. I'm sick of this guy.
They do that.
I'm going to get him.
Umps do that?
Yeah. Well, why didn't Davey Lopes stand up for his runner in this case? Davey Lopes said,
maybe he didn't see it. Maybe
he was the first base coach. What was he looking at? Van Gogh exhibit in the stands?
Maybe.
You got to stand up for the guy. Here's the data Puig had yesterday. He plays a doubleheader. He goes 6 for 10 with 2 walks. So he's on base 8. That's a pretty good day for Ted Williams. I mean, if umpires are doing this, Mike, then you can't do this.
What do you mean if? When I went on it for 2 years, I attacked Blue, and you defended
I wasn't paying attention. Now I saw this.
Well, you know what? You got the Atlanta Hawks and Blue in one day. You are on fire, aren't you?
Awful.
Wow.
Good thing I watched. Let's take a break. Coming up, is James Harden right that the pressure is on the Blazers tonight?
And who does the Heat want to win the other series? The Raptors or the Nets?
I can't believe that I have a cold and you have a cold. I'm soldiering through again. This is your first day.
I don't have a cold. I lost my voice.
Sound off.
When it comes to mailing and shipping, there just aren't a lot of good choices. You could go to the post office, but that takes up too much time. You could lease a postage meter, but that's too expensive. Luckily, there's a better way. Stamps.com. With Stamps.com, you can buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter or package right from your desk using your own computer and printer. You'll even get special postage discounts you can't find at the post office. And with Stamps.com, you get more features than a postage meter at a fraction of the cost. And right now, you can get this special offer from Stamps.com when you use promo code PTI. A no-risk trial, plus a $110 bonus offer that includes a digital scale and up to $55 free postage. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com, and before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in PTI. That's Stamps.com, promo code PTI.
Time for toss-up. Wilbon can barely talk, so let's just go ahead, put him down for the L already. What's first?
Toss-up, who's facing more pressure tonight, the Rockets or the Blazers?
Let me explain why this comes about in the first place, because James Harden has said, and I'm quoting, the pressure's on them. Sunday's going to be a great game, unquote, which means that Harden believes that Houston's going to win this game and then go back home for Game 7. This is palpably insane, because if Portland doesn't have to win, If Houston loses this game, they are eliminated. All of the pressure is on Houston.
All of the pressure is on Houston is right, because they're going home. You got to get up out of here and go to the crib if you lose this game. Portland is a really difficult place to play. I know that Houston has had these incredible games there. These games have gone to overtime. It's spectacular games. But, Tony, if they go to overtime again and they lose, they're going home. The Blazers can go to Houston. The pressure's on Houston.
They better hold Aldridge down again like they did last game. What's next?
That's not going to happen.
Toss up. Who should the Heat be rooting for, the Raptors or the Nets?
Let me say to begin with that I believe that Miami will beat either team that is out there. A couple of months ago, you know, I thought Brooklyn was really coming on. But the more you look at them lately, you look at Pierce and Garnett and Deron Williams, the less you are intimidated by them. Toronto's guards, Lowry and DeRozan, they're young, they're quick, they're good, and they're not going to be a neophyte team if they win a playoff series. I think Miami ought to root to get Brooklyn.
Tony, you know, my mind has been changing a little bit on this, but I don't think as much as yours. I think it's a matchup issue. You mentioned those young, quick guards.
Yeah.
They're giving Brooklyn big-time problems. And it looks like Toronto can beat Brooklyn, speaking of Game 6, and if you get a 6 and 7, it looks like that. But I think in terms of matchups, I think Miami would rather not play Brooklyn. I just think sometimes you get matchups and you get Pierce and Garnett, and they live for this. They don't live to beat the Raptors. They live to beat Miami. If they can get past them, if it would set up something pretty cool to watch, I think.
Next.
Last one. Excuse me, not the last one. Second to last one. Toss-up. Brighter future, the Lakers or the Clippers?
The brighter future is the Lakers. The Lakers have shown many times that they can rebuild in a hurry. They have the great attraction of being the Lakers. The narrative of the Lakers historically is much more enticing than the narrative of the Clippers. The Clippers' future at the moment is very muddy because if Donald Sterling goes to court and this thing drags out at all, Doc Rivers is going to say goodbye. Blake Griffin and Chris Paul are going to say declare us free agents. That team could just disintegrate because of something off basketball's time, but in the courts.
Tony, I fear you're right about this. And you know what's interesting being here in Los Angeles, of course, where I am now, is that the Laker coaching search is so much bigger than the result of the Clipper game to Los Angelinos. I think to those of us from the outside here covering this thing, you're like, oh, my God, don't tell me that a team that's not playing is bigger news than a team that could go and win Game 7. But I think, Tony, the immediate future, is brighter for the Clippers because they've got Doc Rivers as coach, and they've got a roster chock full of people. They can win the championship this year. This Clippers team, that's a pretty bright future.
Yeah, because the Lakers have no future in the next week and a half.
That's right.
You know. Next.
Now it's the last one.
Good.
Toss-up. Bigger event on Saturday. Mayweather's title fight or the Kentucky Derby?
This is not even close. The last time Mayweather fought on pay-per-view, 2.2 million bought. The time before that, 875,000 bought. Look, horse racing is done in this country, but the Kentucky Derby somehow is immune to that. That's still a party and festive Saturday. Last year, they had their highest rating in 21 years. 16 million people plus watched that. Floyd Mayweather is a cult figure. I know you're going the other way, but you're wrong.
I'm going the other way because I don't care about horse racing.
Well,
I have been to the Derby for the week leading up to several times as a columnist for the Washington Post. I couldn't stay on Saturday because I went to the NBA playoff game, but I've never been there for the actual running of the race. I've been there the whole week leading up to it. It's a fascinating thing.
Quick, you could have stayed 2 minutes.
Tony, it's a fight. There's still nothing as good, and you know this, as fighters walking into the ring when one of them's a champion and you get that buzz, it's a fight. Horse racing, dead. By the way, boxing, close to dead. Horse racing, fully dead.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
I can't listen. I just can't. Wilbon is toast. One last break still to come. Why does Carlos Gomez do this more than any other player in baseball?
And are the Spurs going to finish off the Mavericks tonight?
You know, it looks like they are, don't you think?
I don't think so. Not tonight. I think the Mavericks can win tonight.
I don't know. Happy time, people. Happy 39th birthday, David Beckham. The English soccer player is finally and completely retired. Beckham is supposedly going to run an MLS team in Miami. And as long as we're on the wish list, Husky comedian Seth Rogen said he'd like to smoke a joint with Becks. Maybe a joint would make Neighbors a funny movie for me. Just kidding. Don't do drugs, kids.
Who do you hate more, Beckham or Dwight Howard?
It's not even close.
It isn't. Which
like
one?
Beckham. Not so happy anniversary, Paul McClain. On this day last year, the Senators coach was called, quote, a bug-eyed fat walrus by a Canadiens player. If he was a bug-eyed fat walrus when he was coach of the year last year, imagine what McClain was this year when the Senators didn't even make the playoffs.
Well, he's lucky he's not fired, because in that sport, any reason is a reason that's good enough to be canned.
Happy trails to another Joey Votto home run. Brewers center fielder Carlos Gomez robbed Votto for the second time in 2 years last night. This is the sixth time in 2 years Gomez has gone over the wall to bring back a homer. No other outfielder has done that more than twice in the same time period, Mike.
I guess I would really like a transcript or a lip reader to tell me exactly what Votto said when he's screaming at him. He's just waved at his arm up. Said, get away from my fly balls, okay?
When you scream at Gomez, he runs around the bases or stops in the middle. Time to find out where we messed up, Reali.
You and the Cookie Monster there were clean. The 49ers announced they picked up the option, 50-year contract option of Aldon Smith. And Nets Raptors tonight in Brooklyn. Drake will be in the house. Pack your lint rollers, BK.
Here we go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
Spurs at Mavs Game 6. Will Dirk save the Mavs season?
Well, Dirk is interesting because he's great in elimination games, Tony. He's got a big task tonight against the Spurs. Phil Jackson reportedly told Carmelo he expects Steve Kerr to be the Knicks' next coach. Your thoughts?
We've heard this for weeks. What exactly is holding this up? You know, really, UConn reportedly negotiating a new contract with Kevin Ollie that will double his salary. Is that enough to keep him?
What, $2.5 million is going to blow the Lakers out of the tub if they want Kevin Ollie? I don't think so. Comcast Bay Area reporting Sharks coach Todd McClellan will reportedly not be fired. Not. Right, Carl?
Well, he lost 4 in a row and left the first round of the playoffs, but he has won 5 playoff series over 6 seasons. He's been a pretty good coach. Last one, 2 NHL Game 1s tonight. Who you got?
Penguins and Blackhawks at home, Tony. The picking for this series is easy for me. Both those teams are going to win. I'm not saying they're going to sweep, but they're both going to win.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Have a great weekend, knuckleheads. I'm going to drink more tea. Check out the PTI podcast on iTunes.
White House Correspondent there tomorrow night. PTI.
The next big thing. The next new kid. The next overnight sensation. The next rookie. One to watch. The next Hall of Famer. The next Intimidator. The next 6-time. The next king. Next. Who's next? Let's find out. Names are made here. The History 300 at Charlotte. Saturday at 2:30 Eastern on ABC.